Hello students, we are starting the second semester with ecology. So what's ecology? Eco, it means the environment, and logy, it means to study. So we're going to be studying environment. Specifically, we're going to be studying the environment that's concerned with the organisms, okay? So, if we say, what's ecology? Ecology is the study of interaction between an organism with another living thing or non-living thing. Don't mistake it with ecosystem, okay? Because that are similar. But what's ecology? Ecology is the study of interaction between an organism with another living thing or non-living thing. Organism with a non-living thing or a living thing, okay? So this ecology. In ecology, scientists have seen that there's a hierarchy, like step by step, going up in levels of organization. So they have organized into 5 levels. The first level of organization in ecology is biosphere. Biosphere is the broadest, the most inclusive one. So if I told what's the highest level of organization in ecology, I'll tell you biosphere. Okay, if I told you what's the biggest or the most inclusive or the most major one, you will tell me the biosphere. Why is biosphere? Because biosphere, it includes all the organisms from the crust within 20 kilometers to the atmosphere. Okay? If I told you biosphere includes what and what in ecology, you will tell me 20 kilometers within the crust of the earth till the atmosphere. Okay? Wata la crust di ardawa 20 kilometers till the atmosphere. Okay? Bash. All organisms, of course, are found within this crust, right? We can't find organisms out of the space, and we can find it in the earth, in the core, okay, or after the crust, after 20 kilometers. All of them are found between here and here. In this atmosphere wasn't here, of course, we will cease to exist, and we will be a lifeless planet. So, this is biosphere, okay? This is the information you need about it. After the level of biosphere comes the level of ecosystem. What's ecosystem? Biosphere is composed of smaller sections. Like, let's say this is a section, okay? Or it's a section within here. Or here, or here, or here, okay? So biosphere is composed of smaller sections are called ecosystem. These ecosystems are found within the whole world, okay? Like we can say the ecosystem of Kurdistan, or we can say the ecosystem of Tundra, okay? Or the ecosystem of Antarctica. So all of these are ecosystems. Ecosystems are what? Include all non-living things and living things, like the ecology, they are similar, okay? It includes all living and non-living things, but the difference here in the definition is that this one is in a particular area, okay? So it includes the interaction between living and non-living things in a particular area, okay? In a particular area, okay? So you can see, we can make a definition out from here, after the ecosystem, the biosphere is composed of smaller units called ecosystem. What's ecosystem? Ecosystem. An ecosystem includes all of organisms and non-living environment found in a particular place, okay? So give us an example of ecosystem by the ecosystem of a pond, okay? Okay, leave the book and imagine a pond. When you have found a pond, the first thing you will imagine, of course, is the water. After the water, there will be no organisms if there is no sun, okay? So the sunlight, water, these are the non-living things. Okay, so is the water salt or not? So salinity, okay? Salinity, also the pH of the water. All of these are properties of the water and the non-living things like the sunlight, and the soil and the rocks that are found in that ecosystem. Okay, after that we come to organisms. What organisms you can find in a pond? You can find fishes, okay? You can find turtles, you can find microorganisms like bacteria, you can find protists, you can find plants on the land, of course. There will be like, let's say, birds, other arthropods, insects. Okay, so all of this together, they make an ecosystem, okay? And if you go higher, you will say all the ecosystems in the world, they make what? They make the biosphere. So the biosphere is composed of ecosystems, okay? Of ecosystems. And ecosystems is composed of all living things and non-living things in a particular area. So a pond have chemical and physical compositions. The chemical compositions, like I said in here, you can say the salinity of water is a chemical composition of water. pH is a chemical composition of water. Of course, all of these are non-living things. All non-living things. Okay. If I told you what determines or what causes and determine what type of organism live in that pond, you will tell me the pH. Okay, it helps in determining what kind of organism live in a pond and how abundant they are. Of course, you can see as in this picture we showed you, you can clearly see here the levels of organization. This picture or this figure make it simple to understand the levels of organization. If you see there, the biosphere includes the earth from the crust till the atmosphere, and after that the ecosystem, which includes all organisms, living and non-living things. In a particular area, organisms are the living things, okay, and non-living things like sun, water, soil, okay. After that, you come to community. Now you're gonna understand the community. As I said, you can see here the levels of organization: biosphere, ecosystem, community, population, and after that, organism that's on this one. Okay. Let's not forget also the amount of sunlight is a physical composition of the ecosystem. The amount of sunlight that pond receives or that ecosystem. Okay. After that, we have communities, populations, and organisms. What's community? Well, community, it includes all the living things in an environment, okay? All living things in a particular place. Ecosystem, it includes all the living and non-living things, all the living and non-living things. But in community, it includes only the living things in a particular area. So we come to the mega definition, or the community will say a community is all the interacting organism living in an area, okay? All interacting, all the interaction between the organisms in a particular area or a lake area. For instance, the pond that we do, the example of the pond, let's say only the living things, what were there? Like the fishes, the turtles, the plants, all of them were what? Were living things. They made up a community inside that pond. So, in community, the scientists, the ecologists focus on what? They focus on studying how species interact and how these interactions influence the nature of the community. They study what? They study how species interact and how these interactions influence the nature of the community. We have a community that ecologists go, what's it going to study? You're going to study the interaction. How these interactions influence what? Influence the community. Because he's studying the community, okay? Okay, so that was about community. After that, we come below the level of community, and it is population. Population, it includes only the living things, but in one type of species. Okay, so community includes all the living things, but in population it includes only one type of species. Like if you took the example of the pond, if we study population, we must say only the fishes, or only the turtles, or only the plants. Okay, so this is population. If we make definition of it, a population which includes all the members of a species that live in one place at one time. It's important, okay? In one place at one time. What's it? Population. Population, it includes all the organs or one species that lives in one place at one time. Like you can't say the birds or the pigeons. Just say the pigeons of dog or the pigeons of Howrah. They must live together, okay, and in a particular place, the same place and at the same time, okay. So even like if we say the pigeons of Kurdistan, we must say the pigeons of where? Like the time, there's a time delay between, let's say, Slimani and Howrah, okay. There's about 3 minutes like that, so they must live in one place at the same time, okay. And the last one is the simplest level organization. It is the individual or organism. In this level, the researchers or the scientists focus on studying the adaptation that allowed it to overcome the challenges that they face. Like if we took an example of a polar bear, its ecosystem is in Antarctica, okay? If we took that individual, what the scientist is going to study the level of organism, On the level of organism, the scientists are going to study what are the challenges that are this polar bear facing and how it overcomes it, okay? And this was the levels of organization. Very simple, very easy. Egyptian in ecology. It speaks about that there's no organism in the environment that's isolated. So a human can't live isolated. It needs the other organisms or the other humans to live. Why? Because all of them interact within each other. Let's take an example of a human and a plant. The plant takes the carbon dioxide that the human produces, and the human takes the oxygen that the plant produces. So all of them are connected to each other. This interaction is called interconnectedness. Interconnectedness, it is each ecosystem is a network in which organisms are linked to other organisms and the non-living thing. All of us are connected to the other organisms. So the second example of a human, as we said, is connected to the plant, okay? And also the plant is connected to the non-living thing like sun, or the nitrogen in the soil, or the soil itself, or the water. So we can say that humans are connected to the sunlight. Why? Because we take plants as food, and the plant brings its food from the non-living things like the sunlight and water and carbon dioxide. Of course, the carbon dioxide comes from us, or the volcanoes, or other natural disasters that bring carbon dioxide. So in a way or two, all of us are connected to each other, the living and the non-living thing. In here it's called interconnectedness, okay? So all of this is called interconnectedness or interdependence, okay? There's an example in the section review. It says give an example of interdependence. Interdependence is the same as interconnectedness, okay? I gave you the example. That's next. You just need to know an example. What's an interconnectedness? How the organisms and the non-living things are connected to each other, and also its definition. After that, we come to disturbance in ecosystem. Disturbance in ecosystem. Disturbances are actions that happen in the ecosystem through a sequence of interaction between organisms. It gave us a very interesting example how oak tree produces more acorn yearly and causes more death rate yearly. So if you can see here, it says that if the acorn produces more, if the oak tree produces more acorn, okay, these acorns will make the mice and deers to reproduce more, okay? And make they reproduce more. If they reproduce more, that means more population of mice and deers. The thing here is that mice and deers have ticks on them, okay? So if there's more mice and deers, that means that there's more ticks, okay? These ticks carry a bacteria that causes a disease. This disease is called Lyme disease, okay? Lyme disease. This Lyme disease, it is effect on human is like that, okay? And in some cases, it causes death. So, if you can say, if you want to say, you can say like this Lyme disease or the death of that human was caused because of the oak tree, okay? That's the disturbance ecosystem. All things are connected to each other. How this oak tree was responsible for the death of someone, okay? So you can say the oak tree produced more acorn this year, okay? This acorn made the population of mice and deers to produce more. If they produce more, that means there will be more ticks. If there are more ticks, that means there will be more Lyme disease. If there's no Lyme disease, that means there's more death rates. But in opposite, let's say that the oak tree produced less acorn this year, okay? Less acorn, it means lesser production of mice and deers. If there's a lesser production of mice and deers, that means there's less carry this ticks. If there's less ticks, that means less Lyme disease and thus less death rate, okay? So the service ecosystem is all actions that are connected to each other in some way, okay? So we can say, look, if you can see the big picture here, okay? So what was it? Oak tree, more acorn, more population of mice and deers, more population of mice and deers, more ticks, more Lyme disease, and the opposite, less Lyme disease. There was less ticks, there was less ticks. That means there was less mice and deers, less mice and deers. That means there was less food that was acorn, and there was less acorn. That means there was less production of acorn by the oak tree, okay? That's the disturbance of the ecosystem. You can preserve or memorize this example in this picture like this, okay? You only need to memorize the steps. That's it, okay? And that's the service ecosystem. Now to the section review.